Okay, so basically I created this amplitude and it's increasing for the X component, but I also am just going to copy this into the other channels. I suppose the easiest way that I'll do this is just copy the parameter, right, and paste relative reference as such. One of the things that I might do as well is just in one of the channels just give it an offset like times 10, so that it kind of gives a more fancy effect to it, so you get this kind of sort of bigger effect. Obviously my volt pop needs to be adjusted so that this force gets to, you know, influence more. So let's just put this at 1 for now, and this maybe at 0.1. We can keyframe this as well. So there we go. There's our life and our force coming into play. One more thing as well is that at the moment our life is sort of set very high. You know, the life expectancy there is set to 100. Instead, let's just use our entire time range over there from 1 to 240, so that would be 10 seconds. And this will be basically sort of, you see it kind of, you know, floats on top of that. Okay, one of the things that I'd like to do now, well actually, is we can put some limiters on it. Say that this movement is too fast for us or something like that. We can start to put speed limits on it. So we can add a drag on it, first of all. So we have just a drag, right? Another thing we can do is we can add a speed limit so that the acceleration is limited. So there, speed limit. This speed max, I'm going to break it. So just say delete channels, and let's put the speed limit of the maximum to 1, right? So this will kind of, especially in the beginning, slow them down so that they can't really go faster than a certain speed. One of the things you might notice as well is that the normals, right, are not sort of, you know, corresponding to the other normals, you know, the normals of the grid. If you wanted to do that, then it's just the same thing as sort of blending between, you know, like blending between the normals of the initial thing and then bringing in with a new attribute the normals of the goal object. But I'm not going to do this right now. Okay, so I've got a speed limit. One last thing that you might want to do is add an interact pop to it, so that basically if you wanted to make sure that they don't really, you know, they don't sort of intersect with each other, you can just add an interact to this. And if we want to have sort of an idea of the scale of this thing, because in the beginning the scale will probably be too big, you know, this scale of 1, yeah, they kind of flow completely out of each other, and you can see that they're trying to maintain that distance. Let's change this a little bit smaller, and one way of sort of checking that, how big that ought to be, I'm just going to quickly copy some spheres onto my particles, so I've got a better idea of how big this stuff is. So this is definitely, so this is basically a sphere of radius 1, so that's definitely too big. So if I start to decrease this, then something like 0.1 is a lot better. Yeah? If I just rewind this, see this seems much more, you know, feasible. Okay, so let's go back into this and set this scale to 0.1. Okay, I think that's about it for this part. One of the other things that is quite cool as well with this network is we can basically add in a blend shape to this, and so we could actually use a blend shape right about well, I suppose after the scatter. So if we put in a blend shape, we can use the original sphere, so we could kind of blend from a sphere to a chaotic position, sort of to, you know, like noisy position, to a grid, back to the original sphere, right? And the nice thing about Houdini's way of doing things is that this blend shape, right, will, all the other goal attributes, all the null goal and stuff like that, will just, you know, be maintained, which is, you know, great. So let's put in as a first blend shape the scatter one. And we can do this since they have the same number. Remember, 92 points there and 92 points there. So I'm just going to get this sphere and plug it in there. Maybe I could do it after the facet. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's just a matter of getting it right. Alright, so let's add one more. And we could, you know, add a little sort of, we could keyframe this, you know, like so, because we've been using expressions all this time. So at the moment set to 1, you can just say, okay, this is the grid, right? And the grid is moving, right? And just blend over time, say something like from 140 or 120, 120, I want it to be 0, and I'm just going to say Alt left click on this, so it becomes green, which means it's a keyframe, to 160, and let's turn this to 1, so it's a sphere again, right? Obviously our goals need to be able to update that, so they might not be fast enough, we might have to take that away. So they're the grid, and then they go back to being the sphere, right? So it's a bit fast, but I hope you can see this. I'll turn this off. And let's have a look, probably still referenced somewhere. Yeah, don't need that anymore. Okay. So at this point we've basically got a bunch of spheres, right? And they start out as, you know, like part of this spherical object. They become part of this grid, right? And then once they've, you know, they follow the grid, right, they become back into a sphere. And basically, so that's basically all the way at the end, so 239 to 40-ish. Now the assembly is not fully complete, so if we wanted it to fully complete, it's just a matter of going inside and tweaking your parameters a bit. So either maybe temporarily removing your speed limit, see what that does, so it kind of explodes outwards, and it gets back in there. So something like that. So it's quite close at the moment, so just by disabling the speed limit. Another thing is we can just make sure that the goal strength is stronger, so that, you know, this thing has more influence. Again, this will speed things up a little bit, so they kind of go away faster, right, and they assemble faster. So quite cool stuff. One more thing is, if you've got a fast moving object, so say that we've got our grid, right, which is our target. Say that I would add a transform to this, right, and I'm going to start rotating this thing around. So I'm just going to quickly add an expression in the Y channel, so that now you can see that our grid is starting to rotate around. Our particles are having difficulties keeping up with these points. So these points, and there's our particles. So if I just look at this and play it like till somewhere over there, so this should have been sort of fully the grid. So let's have a look. I've got a particle, say this is number 56, and I'm gonna see how big the offset is with the other 56. So I can't even find it, so it's pretty big offset. So, you know, in order to get there, I will need to increase my strength of my VOP. So basically, or even reduce the drag a little bit, so just to increase the strength. This might be too much, but then again it's going fairly fast. Alright, so let's have a look now. So we've got the 56 there. Might be easier to see if I just turn off my mountain. Let's have a look. Right, so you can kind of see there's my particles. They're being spread out till about 120. There's particle 56. Let's have a look at this now. Where is my point number? There's my other particle 56. So again, it's still not enough. We're gonna have to, you know, raise it a little bit more. So you can just keep on tweaking these parameters basically until you're happy with them. Maybe even reduce a little bit of the noise, so that, you know, the noise is not that strong. So we got a bit more particle strength going on. So it's going there, it's sticking there. Let's have a look. So that was a lot less already. You could kind of see there's my 56. If I look at it now, there's my 56. So there's still, you know, like there's still a difference. It's just a matter of seeing how fast this object goes and then adjusting your settings. Okay, so yeah, that's it basically for this kind of goal per particle system where you've got your own VOP. So yeah, that's it. Just add a null to the end, Let's call this guy out. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.